Humans can get really good at stuff, and while we look at fictional characters like Batman that dedicate their whole lives and bodies to becoming like super soldiers where they're optimized in every facet, like strength, speed, freaking aesthetics, and just agility, they still have elements of reality to them. Like there are men that, like David Goggins, who can run ultra marathons. There's crazy fast people like Usain Bolt. There's power lifters like Eddie Hall that can like lift thousands of pounds. So the real question is, how close can a man get to a force output machine applying all of these things at once while staying lean, being healthy, and of course moving fast? I've been really interested in bringing that kind of super soldier idea, that's what I've been calling it, to life in the last couple years, and I've made some serious progress. So in this video, I'm going to share with you what I've already been doing, what I'm doing right now, and what I plan to do for the future. In January 2025, I set the goal to hit a 315 bench press in the year. I had 12 months to increase my bench press 90 pounds, and it was pretty delusional considering I was stuck at 225 bench press for all of 2024. But then, I hit 315 in 6 months. I increased my bench press 90 pounds in 6 months, and then the month after that, I increased my bench press 10 more pounds, and now I can bench 325, and I can also squat 405. And in fact, the first month in February, I actually had increased my bench press 25 pounds to get to a 255 pound bench press. And so what did I change? Well, there's 3 variables that I've been considering for this almost like super soldier project. And that is scientific training, natural hormonal optimization, and then recovery. And so for scientific training, the first couple things that I augmented to my programming is that I incorporated what's called deloading. So like I tested my maxes every month, and so the week before I would actually test my max, I would go slightly lower in weight so I could let the adaptation catch up. I'll show you this graph. Basically, this is how basically any adaptation works, but for muscular adaptation, you have a stimulus and then your muscle is actually weaker after the stimulus until it recovers and rebounds back stronger. Now, if you train hard before it's fully recovered, then you'll stay spinning your wheels stuck at the same place forever. You need to make sure you're adequately recovering and of course training hard, good stimulus, but then recovering so that you could bounce back, rebound stronger. So not only did I incorporate that deload, I also started benching twice a week because I read this study that most of the actual stimulus that you get from training actually happens in the first 8 to 12, it might have been 8 to 10 sets of your actual workout. Now, if you're doing a bro split, which is like basically training an entire muscle like your chest or your shoulders or your arms like for one whole day, you might be getting diminishing returns and missing out on actual gains. More gains that you could have gotten if you just trained the same muscle spread across different days of the week. So instead of benching a bunch one time a week, I would bench twice a week, and then instead of training my arms like really hard one day, I would train them multiple times per week because I would get more stimulus that way, and I would also have more recovery that way. But then there's the idea of natural hormonal optimization. Optimizing your testosterone naturally is so important because it decreases the time it takes for you to recover. I applied many different things for natural hormonal optimization, like supplementing with vitamin D, having zinc plus copper balance, magnesium, increasing my saturated fat intake because saturated fats are the building block of testosterone. Cholesterol is the building block of testosterone, the steroid hormones. I decreased my long-term stress so that less of my cholesterol would go towards my cortisol and more towards my testosterone. And I cut out seed oils, not because seed oils are bad inherently, but because seed oils, when you heat them up, they release more toxic compounds because they are less stable. And so these free radicals, which are what the toxic compounds are called, will actually denature the saturated fats and lead to more inflammation in the body, and that can decrease testosterone. And then all of that combined with a high protein diet was really beneficial for me. I noticed that helped me the most. Sprinting gives you an acute spike to growth hormone and testosterone, and even though it's a very short spike, you can actually increase the effects of the spike and actually have more of the testosterone, more of the growth hormone if you don't have cold exposure right after, because cold exposure, while it can make you deal with more exercise, it actually blunts the adaptive response. And so I leveraged sprints. I did this protocol called the Sprint 8 method, which is basically 8 sets of 30-second sprints and 1 minute and 30-second recovery time. It's pretty brutal, and it was pretty tough on me. And I if you're going to try this, really take into account the next thing I'm going to tell you. So I started doing Muay Thai, and Muay Thai is really great because I also want to learn how to fight, because I feel like that's part of like the super soldier kind of the whole thing together, being like, you know, an expert in all areas, being able to fight, being strong, being fast, all those things, being athletic and everything. Issue is that while I was training for Muay Thai, I still hadn't been recovered from the sprints. I actually developed what's called shin splints, and I really want to urge you with this. If you're the kind of guy that kind of wants to hop on this super soldier kind of project with me, then you need to actually have discipline sometimes not to work out. See, the thing is, sometimes your mind is actually stronger than your body while you're developing it. And so I remember when I started sprinting, I was thinking, okay, I should only do like 4 sprints in case my body's not ready for it. And then after I did the 4th sprint, I was like, okay, nah, I'm not gonna be like this. I'm just gonna do all of them because my mind, I can push myself.
So I know I said I'm only gonna do 4 sets of sprints today. Well, it's gonna be the 7th one.
Issue is, because I was training so hard and I had done it so fast, I was not actually letting the adaptation catch up, and I ended up getting shin splints, which is basically just like pain around your shins. And that was interfering with my training for Muay Thai and my actual training for sprinting, and it just made me not show up as well to my workouts, and it actually hindered my performance a lot. And so if you were going to do this Sprint 8 method, if you were going to do the Muay Thai, I would say, especially for the sprinting, if you have stronger legs like me, then work your way up. It's part of the process. It's part of being disciplined to only do 1 or 2 sprints the first time. And then after you're fully recovered in a couple days, then you can do 3 sprints. Fully recovered, do 4 sprints. Make sure to progressively overload, because even though your brain might be ready for it, even though you can push yourself, sometimes you need to be disciplined not to work out because it's part of the long-term goal. Okay, so those are all the things that I've done already. But what have I just started doing? I've started decreasing my body fat percentage, not just so I can look more aesthetic and like really cool, but also so I can move around through my body. And for the really main reason, I want to decrease my body fat percentage so I can upregulate my testosterone. You see, you get most of your estrogen from your testosterone as a man. And body fat actually carries this enzyme that's called aromatase, and aromatase converts testosterone into more estrogen. And so if your body is like, oh my god, I have way too much estrogen, then it will decrease your testosterone baseline because you have too much estrogen and you need to have less. And so if you decrease your body fat percentage, you will have less of this aromatase enzyme, and then you can have a higher testosterone baseline. And so that means shorter recovery times. That means increased muscle mass faster. And so with that, decreasing your body fat percentage to around 10 to 15% seems to be the sweet spot. Anything less than 10%, sure as hell, anything less than 8% body fat is actually worse for your hormonal health, and anything greater than 20% body fat is pretty bad too. But the sweet spot is 10 to 15% body fat. I used to be there at one point, but I'm not quite there yet. I'm getting back there. Currently, my body fat percentage is 24.3%, according to my probably inaccurate body fat scale. And so, because I had shin splints, I've resorted to a different method of cardio while I have been trying to recover from my shin splints. If shin splints get really bad, they can take about a month to recover. I started doing the air bike, and the air bike is basically like a really tough way of cardio. The harder you push, the faster the fan spins, and so the more resistance there is. And so for this is what elite fighters do. And so this is why I started doing it, because I wanted to test my VO2 max and I wanted to lower my resting heart rate. Your VO2 max is entirely important. Your VO2 max is the maximum amount of oxygen that your cells can utilize during intense or maximal exercise. And so if you want to follow me with this super soldier method, the super soldier programming, then you need to also take into account your VO2 max. Because look, you could have all the discipline in the world, you could have mental endurance, and you can feel the pain of a workout and then just train hard and not quit. The thing is, that's the mental of it. But there's actually a physical aspect to endurance, and that is VO2 max. If you have a higher VO2 max, elite is around 65 to 70, then you will literally have more endurance. And this is what's getting me excited. Imagine if you had a really great VO2 max, but you also had the mental endurance of it too. Combining those together, that'll make you a super soldier, I bet. And so I'm really excited to do that. And so there's two ways to estimate your VO2 max. There's the first way that I didn't do, which is the Cooper test, which is basically this formula right here. And so I did not do that one. I did the heart rate based VO2 max Sorensen estimate. This is the cleanest one you can calculate yourself. Basically, VO2 max equals 15 times heart rate max divided by heart rate at rest. I tested my maximum heart rate on the air bike and it ended up being 176 beats per minute. But my resting heart rate is actually much higher than I think it should be. It's around 67 beats per minute. Now, I don't know if it's because I'm under recovered from my workouts or if I'm just a big guy because I'm 200 pounds. Regardless, my resting heart rate, I will actually have the goal to decrease my resting heart rate because it's an actually big indicator of a long-term health and longevity, like literal lifespan. I want to get my resting heart rate to the elite levels, like around 40 to 50 beats per minute. My VO2 max the first time I tested it ended up being 35, which is really terrible actually. The second time I tested it with my lower resting heart rate the next day was about 39. Still, I don't like this. Like, I know I have really good endurance and cardio compared to a lot of people, and so I was surprised, but I think it's because of the mental rather than the actual, like, I have the mental endurance, but maybe the physical endurance is not there yet. But like I said, this makes me excited because what if I had the physical endurance of the VO2 max, the high VO2 max, plus also the mental endurance? I feel like that would make me actually like this super soldier level. And so the last couple things I'm going to do for this super soldier project is I'm going to upgrade my diet even more. I mean, my diet's pretty solid already, like it's getting me pretty lean while staying pretty strong, feeling like I have really good cardio. But again, I can always upgrade it. And so I discovered this seminar by Stan Efferding about this vertical diet, and I've been listening to it, and so far what I've taken out from it is I'm going to take into account more of my micronutrients and more salt intake for performance. Apparently that feeling that you get when you're kind of gassed out mid-workout is not because you lack carbs, it's because you're salt depleted. And so if you have lots of salt, your body adapts and actually is able to perform much better in your workouts. And so the very last thing I've been starting to do for this super soldier project is I've started tracking performance metrics. Basically, I just sat down and thought, okay, what are all the things that a super soldier would be able to do or get really good at? And I have goals, and I'm going to research how to improve them. This is kind of what that looks like right over here. I put it just on a spreadsheet. So all the variables to the super soldier project is hormonal health, recovery, and scientific training. As long as I optimize my testosterone, my recovery, like my sleep, and I train scientifically, I should be able to get to that super soldier status. If you have any ideas for what I could do in this project, leave a comment, and you can also join my free community in the description below to get in touch with me specifically and also access all my resources that I personally have been using to optimize myself. I'll see you in the next one.